Hello, we are here for one more lesson of this SprutCAM training course. Today will be part 2 of the lesson we've done in the previous video called editing geometrical mode, so part 2. And we will continue to see some functionalities / commands that allow us to handle this edition of geometry. So the new one which I would like to present you now is something called inversion. But before I would like to talk a little about this model. So this is another example that comes with the SprutCAM installation. It can be anything else, but I think this particular geometry will allow us to see what I want to show you in this video. So inversion, this is something that we use to make inverting the normals of surfaces. Usually, and in this particular case, we have a solid which is completely closed, and if it is correctly done or imported, all the normals will be correctly pointed to the same direction, which allow us to machine this geometry without any problems. But if you remember, in the previous video we talked in one of the configurations, in one of the settings, that allow us to machine a surface either in both sides of the surface or only in one side. And this is important when we talk about this inversion in case of problems. So to give you an example, I will choose my model, for example, level 0, which has a lot of surfaces. I will click this surface, and now if you see in this top bar, we have a couple of functions which are not all here, but in this particular case, when I click in with my right mouse button, I get new functionalities. One of those, it is inverse, and inverse will think a little, and okay, it will create something like this. So what happened now, it is I continue to have my model, and physically it's the same model, but this color signs that we have a problem, because even that is physically closed, but I have one surface or more surfaces that are not all in the same direction, okay? And we can see the difference again if I make the exact same procedure, inverse. Now I get my model on the correct display, and this wants to mean that the model it is correct. So this is something usually and believing that the geometry is well imported, well created, so we should not have any issues with this, but it's something that we need to point out. Another functionality, it is called the outer boundaries projection. And again, I can select my model, or for example, one surface. For example, I can choose again this one, and I have something called project. And I have some parameters here, so I can give it a name for this object. I can select some tolerances about how to create this approximation on the projection, and this slit width to ignore, it is the possibility to ignore gaps that we may have on the geometry, but it's not the case in this particular one, so simply OK. And I should get somewhere, I should get some curves which are here. I will take this out. If I highlight my curves, you see that I have some geometry there, which was the projection of this particular surface. So this is something also interesting in some cases for grabbing the contours and then to use those contours to machine. Another interesting possibility, it is the curves joining. So I can select my curve. So this is a set of curves, okay, curve 1, and I can make a join. Again, we have also some settings. We can delete sources, we can convert it to spline, which I will do. It will create a single entity, and I can delete sources, and with some tolerances, and then okay, and I have this joined surface, which is one single entity. And this is a very nice, interesting functionality, because in some particular cases for machining, and we will see some examples later in this course, we have advantages in considering this one single entity. But this is a possibility also to join some surfaces, some curves, sorry, and to have the advantage in terms of the toolpath. Another functionality, it is called the surface triangulation, and we can also choose some entities. Okay, so I'll select the complete model, and this function, it is designed to change the selected surface's tolerances. So the idea, I would assume that in most of the cases it's not needed, but for example, in one case where we want the machine operation to be executed with a tolerance smaller than the tolerance of the surface or the model, so we will not have a good result, and we will not get a definition of a very specific area or a detail. So in this particular case, we need to create a mesh or a triangulation, as you may call it, to lower this tolerance, and then we will create toolpaths on top of a triangulated model, which is basically what SprutCAM used to do in the past when a model was imported. It will create a triangulation of the model and will create a toolpath on top of it. So it's basically the same. In this particular case, I will triangulate it. Okay, I can give it a name also. I can delete sources or not, I will leave it. I can input a tolerance and simply okay. And I have an entry around here, call it. So let us try to, okay, a mesh. I'm not sure if it is the only one that is selected or not. Probably not, okay. Mesh. Okay, and meshes, okay, around here. So I can create a mesh and use a mesh to work in terms of the machining and creation of toolpaths. So, and you can see now the difference. You see the white model and the blue model, which one it is the mesh and the other is the original geometry. One more interesting function, it is something called text. So it is used to create text. It's quite simple. As you may guess, this text, it is used to engrave things. So we can write down what we want. So we have this place in the dialog box where we can write down the text. Let's try to see what is going on. So we have a text on the plan. We can move it around and to change defaults and whatever. We can change the orientation. First, the position. So in terms of straight or round, in terms of orientation, horizontally along the circle, rotation, whatever it is, counterclockwise or not. Change the font and sizes and the style if it is interesting or not, like italic, So we have a lot of possibilities around here. For the position, we can, if we get a circle or a line, we can change the coordinates of the text. We can give it an angle. So there are a lot of things we can do. So it's just a matter of choosing whatever we want. Okay. So a very nice functionality also to work and to help creating things inside SprutCAM. Another one, it is called creating sections. So we can create a section from the geometrical model. We have a lot of functionalities for that also. I will choose my model again, so level 0. I have something called intersect, which is the section. And now you see that I have already something around here, which I can simply say do it. And when it creates the section, so we have curves around, not sure if created or not, but let us try again. Probably yes. Okay, I have a section around here. Okay, we have some curves. But we can create we can create different things. I'll try to change this a little. So main axis, we can manipulate this. For example, let us say something a little more or less obvious, something like this. So we have the display of the plan and the curve that is the intersection. I'm not sure what we will get with this, but it will change also something. We can rotate the plan, for example, 30 degrees. So there is a lot of control around this, and when we say OK, it will think a little because it has to create some entities, and we should have, I'm not sure where, okay, section 2. Okay, should be around here. Okay, not so visible. Oh, it is here. It is. Okay. In the end, some curves belonging to the section, so we could join them if we want, but the idea it is to show that we have that section. So section 2, here we have it, and we can use it also for something in terms of machining if it is the case. Another functionality is called sewing faces for this sew. These sew faces, maybe it's not so obvious, but basically will create a redefinition of the model, and the result of this sewing in the model, it becomes obvious in terms of the edges and the vertices, which will be redefined. Okay, I will execute the sewing, so it will reanalyze the model and it will create the topology of the model. So in some cases it is useful also to for the continued work on top of the model. Finally, we have a function called the patch hole. The patch hole allows us to generate triangulation of selected edges or meshes, and in the end it will help us to close gaps or holes, more better saying. Okay, for example, if we I will select this surface, I will do a patch hole, not in this particular case, sorry, but for example, let us open my mesh and okay, use my mesh, and now select this thing, patch hole, and we can close the holes very easily without having exactly a CAD functionality where we should create entities with the perception of working in CAD. It's not the case. This is a function that simply will help us make this kind of preparation and correction in case of needed for some specific action of a toolpath. So it is a very interesting function also, and very easy to handle in terms of the CAD model. So for this edition of the model, we had 2 lessons. I hope with these topics we cover all the important bits of this possible edition and complementing the actions of the milling itself, which we still did not see. We have some clear explanations in terms of the theoretical lesson that we have available inside Area 51. If you are interested in getting that information, please contact us and we will give you all the information on how to assess those informations. If you need some support, if you have some questions about what was mentioned in the video, you can contact us all, and we will give you all the necessary support to your questions.